Steve, very good to have you back on here, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me back. I rarely get invited back to a place, so this is good.
It's always good to see you.
Yeah, man. Good to see you too.
As we discussed, as we were burning material before recording here, you had mentioned that the last time that we crossed paths was at Gold Diggers when Okonski played.
Yes, the one and only live show we've ever done, which is funny, but yeah, we did it at Gold Diggers, and you were there, and that was a blast. It was
Yeah.
such a good time, and so glad you were able to see it.
Yeah, it was so good. And of course, that was with the great Michael Montgomery and Aaron Frazer. And it was just a fantastic time. And after this episode, people should go back and listen to our first episode, go back and listen to the two Aaron episodes, and go back and listen to the Michael episode.
I didn't put it all together that yeah, I forgot you've had the whole group. That's cool, man. You are a coal mine stan, and I respect that.
Yes, please go back and listen to Steve and I's first episode, and Aaron's and Michael's. They're all great. You guys are all fantastic guys. And coming into to see that at Gold Diggers was amazing. It was a real treat for me.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it was a real treat for me too. I mean, to be able to do that music live was really special, and I have it be a sold out crowd. You know, the whole and to have May Powell open up for us. She's phenomenal, and they're a whole band. Though the whole night was exactly what I had hoped it would have been, and that's probably why we haven't done another one since. The bar's too high.
I mean, if you're batting 1,000 the first time out, what are you gonna do?
That's first ballot Hall of Fame right there. That's it. Hopefully there'll be another one at some point, but we'll see how things go.
Next week, I think is the next one, right?
Yeah, there's gonna be like a next week. No, next
No,
I don't know why I immediately agreed.
I was like,
We,
all right, cool. He's either
I
running with the bit, or there's something I don't know about.
I'm a consummate yes man, and so if you tell me I got a gig next week, it's on, man. Tell me when and where. But I
Love it.
am gonna do a little in store here in Asheville at Harvest Records, with a couple of folks from here doing music from uh, the last album and this upcoming album. So that's February 20th. So depending on when this comes out, it's either happened or it's about to. But either way, I'm sure it'll be a good time.
It will be happening. So for those of you who are not in that area, please book your flights now. There's plenty of time, and go catch that performance.
That's all we got. How are you doing? How is Southern California?
I'm good. It's been a little bit crazy, but overall, I'm doing well, and I think that California is coming back.
Yeah, man, it's wild to see, and it's really, I don't know, really encouraging to see people come together and see all these GoFundMe's get funded and people making supply runs and that. I mean, we went through it here back in the end of September with the flooding, and it's crazy the amount of parallels I see to what was happening in this community and what's happening in LA now and the way that everyone's kind of banding together and just helping people who've lost stuff, and even for the people who haven't lost things and who have to leave, like that's some like taxing shit, man. Like to leave under duress and to know that the city is going to be different for some time to come is tough, and it's good to have good people around you to help out, and it's I know it's been encouraging.
Yeah, you said that the flooding was back in September, not so long ago.
Yeah, I mean, and things are still pretty messed. I mean, things are still very messed up here. There's not just in Asheville, but a lot of the small towns surrounding it. But there's still cars in the river, and like we're still in cleanup. This many months later, and I think we'll be in cleanup for a long time. And I imagine that, again, there's going to be a lot of parallels to what LA is going through. But it'll be different. But that doesn't mean it will be worse. It'll just be different.
I like that. I like that,
Yeah.
Steve. Yeah, going back to that first, and what I've learned now is was the only show. Did you feel like that was gonna be just kind of a one and done thing, or were you expecting to kind of like, all right, what maybe we'll do a couple more coming up in the later months?
It's
perhaps?
I always want to play more shows, but it's tough to do with Aaron in LA, with Mike in New York, and with myself in Asheville. So, with everyone's schedule, Aaron, we're all working a lot. And so to get us all together in the same place is hard enough on its own, let alone trying to book a show. And so that happened to come together in a really nice, organic way. And there have been some other times where I've been trying to make it happen, but it just, because we're in such different places, it gets really expensive really quickly. Um, and so yeah, there's no like expectation like, okay, well, let's take this show on the road. Let's do more. I would like to do that, but everyone's got their own stuff going on. And if this is a recording project with a once a year show, then that's what it is. I'm not going to be disappointed about that. But hopefully, uh, I'm going to do this show in Asheville here with a couple of local guys. I'll always want to play with Mike and Aaron, but I will also be trying to take advantage of any opportunity that comes my way. And we'll play with other folks and have different flavors of the band. Um, so hopefully there will be some stuff coming up. If you are a booking agent, please call me.
I don't have your phone number right now, but we'll exchange information later on.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, was that first show, was that before Magnolia came out, or was that right around the same time that the
N-
album was coming out?
No, that was, I believe, in August of 23, and the album came out in February of 23.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Was it February 23 or February 22? Regardless, it was well after the album. Yeah, and so yeah, it'd been out for a while.
Can we check that? No? It's only me doing the podcast. Okay.
There's no one over there. That's
There's no one
fine.
over there? There's no
I
one
mean, I
over
don't
there.
know. You tell me. I'm just guessing based on your body language.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of it's kind of looks like it's just me. So apologies. And I should have a co-host to be, jumping off of here. Unfortunately, I don't yet, but we're also working on that. You know,
Absolutely. Even just like a producer or something would probably be good for you.
a producer of some sort. Yeah. Ed McMahon, perhaps. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a song and dance man.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Always appreciated. Kind of rare to come across nowadays. With
Yeah,
both
different,
song and dance.
a double threat.
Yeah, it's usually one or the other. You don't really get a double booking like that. But we're we're looking for it. And then when I do that bit later on, it'll be like, oh, there actually is a person there,
When you
which
do a
is
song and dance.
when I do a song and dance,
Right.
and and that'll be coming out soon. I've been watching some Gene Autry, so that's just
Wow.
yeah,
You are you are dialed in to these stars of the silver screen. This is phenomenal.
that was my heyday, Steve. Just really really old references that some people like and some people just don't.
I had this, I'm not going to do it now, but I had this bit this year. I don't know how it came into my mind, but I was doing Christmas carols as Rod Serling from the Twilight Zone, and no one got it. I did it for my friend's parents, and they were like, oh, that's pretty good. But everyone else fell completely flat, which I
Yeah,
expected, but I should have called you. Dang.
I would really enjoy that. It's amazing. That's a really good bit. I like that a
It's
lot.
so dumb.
He had such a voice.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you feel like people with like booming voices or like unique voices are kind of few and far between now as compared to like the 50s, 60s, 70s?
Uh, No, no, I mean, there's a dude who works at the post office here who has to get on the radio at some point. He just sounds so good. He's got a beautiful voice. It's low, it's sonorous, it's perfect, but he's also doing a great job at the post office, so I don't want to pull him away from that either.
Do you put on the radio often? Like when you're driving, are you doing the radio at all, or are you doing Bluetooth and you're just listening to your own tunes? Is
Never do
that
Bluetooth, never really listen to my own tunes. It's pretty much always radio. It's NPR a lot of the time. It's like the '90s throwback station a lot of the time, but I'll usually just scan through. It's too much pressure to try to pick something to listen to. But I love radio. I did radio in college, like the student radio, and then I worked at the NPR station. Um, and it's something like I've always wanted to do again, but it's kind of a time commitment that I'm not able to do.
What with the
Uh,
work at the post office and such, yeah.
if I post that's a good gig if you can get it, man. The pension. What
Well,
about you? Are you gonna get on any radio stations, man?
I would like to, but yeah, essentially we're doing a radio broadcast of like a, Tom Snyder or something, or
Yeah,
Larry King on the radio, which
sure.
I love those guys. It's great. But in terms of like getting into a radio station and doing it, I think that might change the game a little bit. Would
You
you
got
be
to start.
good?
You got to start ripping off more of Larry King, man. If you're gonna do it, you could be like, "Here we go for the full hour." Jacob Barnett.
You know, it is funny because I was just listening to a Larry King live
Yeah,
before we jumped on here.
he's
Always,
really good.
yeah,
He's so good.
arguably the one of the best, if not one of the best interviewers,
No doubt.
Larry King, and taking calls. John from Cincinnati, and he goes, yeah, 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 yeah. Steering it back to music. How do you feel about Magnolia now that it has been out for a bit?
I feel great about it. I feel very similar to how I felt about it even just before it was released. I mean, after it was recorded, like I don't know if it was with you that I was talking about it, but someone was asking me if I listened to the music. And uh I do. Like it feels very organic of the moment, but not like dated. And all the like press and the streams and stuff has all been really, really cool to see, and it's encouraging. Um, and yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm glad that it happened. It's a
Yeah.
cool snapshot, of that time.
Were you surprised by the reception at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's hard to kind of have a reasonable handle on how things will go and like who to listen to before it's going to be released. I think most artists can probably speak at length about some sort of like self doubt and like, there'll be times that before even this new album, like I'll listen to it one day, I'll be like, this is great. People are going to like this. Then I'll listen to it again and be like, why would anyone ever listen to this? This is music for nobody. This is elevator music for a one-story house. This doesn't make any sense. and and but having folks uh that I trust, that having Mike and Aaron on it, having them around makes me feel good, like okay, this is like a proper thing. Having Terry say, yeah, this is having trusted folks say that it's good, feels good. And so all of like the press and the reception and all that is just kind of icing on top of putting it out to begin with. Like I was really proud of it, and the fact that I think there's something inherently selfish about releasing art to where you're like, look at this thing I made. Like maybe you will like it. Maybe selfish is the wrong word, but it's
Self-serving to some extent.
self-serving,
Yeah.
and it's cool it's cool that people responded to it in you know a positive in a positive way. That's what I've heard most of the pod. I haven't heard any negative yet, but the lines are still open.
Yeah, I do have some letters here regarding
Great. Some
some
letters.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
um so yeah, no, I'm very, very happy with how everything went with Magnolia and continues to go, and it's even now like seeing it in a random reel or playlist or something. It feels really good.
yeah, does that kind of trip you out though a little bit if you stumble across it in that way? Like, oh, I was not expecting to hear this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's yeah, it's just cool. It's like, yeah, this feels nice. This is a good feeling, whatever that's worth.
And that is a direct quote, and we're
This
gonna
is a
hold you
good
to that.
feeling.
This is a
Sure, yeah.
good feeling.
That's the hype sticker on the album.
I mean,
That's not bad actually.
that's actually really not bad. It's really not.
This is a good feeling.
I quite like it. Uh, would you record any of the songs from Magnolia differently now, do you think?
Um, like as opposed to how like no, no, I don't think so. Like I'm really happy with how that process went, with how we recorded everything, with how everything sounds, with how of the moment those songs are. I think trying to do it again would it would be a completely different thing.
Hmm.
The only way I could see doing any of these different would be to add instrumentation. But that's not something I would do. Like I wouldn't re-record it with new instrumentation. Like that's the artifact, you know. That's the thing, and it'll be fun to play off of that. But I don't see, aside from like maybe some sort of live album or something at some point, I wouldn't like re-record one of those songs. I feel like that was done, and it's there, and I'm really happy with it.
If you were to remaster some of those tracks from that album, what would be a fourth instrument that you'd bring into the rotation? What do you think would fit for at least one of the songs?
Uh, I would say saxophone is kind of like top of my mind right now for something like song for my sister's son. The really open, kind of airy sections I think could do well. That and I've also been working a little bit with the pedal steel player, and I think a pedal steel on any of that would be really would do it a great service.
Oh man, yeah. I like
So
both of those. Yeah, and so be on the lookout for my bootleg copy of putting in instruments that were not in the original cut. And we're going to be selling those copies until we get a cease and desist. So
uh,
please,
not from me, buddy. Go for it.
it's not you I'm worried about. And Michael, please just cut us some slack here. All right. Again, it's not you, Steve. I know that you're cool with it. Michael, not so much. Understandably.
Sure. No, he's a tough character for sure.
And Aaron is kind of he's okay with some of the songs, but not the others, which is kind of odd. Yeah,
You'll have to bring him back.
yeah, yeah. It's either I bring him back now or I'll see him in court. Either way, we'll cross paths.
Yeah, we'll hash it out.
We'll
Absolutely.
we'll hash it out. Yeah. Did you feel any pressure surrounding that first release, kind of putting it out or putting it together at all?
Um, Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I don't know if it was pressure or anxiety. If it was pressure, it was definitely self-imposed pressure. There was no one being like, we need to sell 500 units. Like no one, no one's like really, no one put any pressure on it whatsoever. I felt pressure because I wanted the validation that it was worth doing and that we would like at least make our money back from making it. So I felt pressure from that and a little, and you know, again, I think it's, you know, your garden variety anxiety about putting out a piece of art. But nothing from anyone else. I mean, in the same way, I feel not pressure, but anxiety, like with this, you know, the second album, what, you know, I hope people like it. I hope we sell some copies of it, but nothing, if we sell zero copies, my life tomorrow or a month from now is not going to be that much different. I'll just
Okay,
be a
but
tiny bit sadder.
my life will be, so please buy that album. Please.
No, yeah,
Okay?
please buy this. I'm the worst salesman. This is
I
not
I
good
I am not.
sales.
It is a real issue. Please buy it, okay? Pre-order now. February 28th,
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. Yeah,
February
sorry. Am I
28th.
getting too ahead of, am I jumping down your sheet there?
No, 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 no. I just need to tackle that now. Just to get a handle on it. You gotta buy the album. You got to. And
I
if you
appreciate that.
and you got to go buy the other album too. Even if you already have it, gift it to somebody. Say, hey, It's kind of like a pass it on sort of a thing. You buy it for somebody else buys it for somebody else, and it kind of goes on like that. Like if you're at a drive-through and they say, "Oh, the person in front of you paid for your order,"
Right. And
and
so then
then
you get a free record.
yeah, and they're at Starbucks and whatnot, and select McDonald's,
It's
and
they're not good records. They're not good
they're
records
great
there.
records. That's right. It's not good records. It's great records now. You
But
are
yeah,
correct about that, sir. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean to say, I obviously want to sell records, but as far as pressure goes, everyone in the project and everyone I work with is very chill, very supportive, and trying to do what we can to make it the best thing possible. So there's very little pressure, is what I
Hmm.
mean to say by that.
I read it that way, but also it's like there's a bit there, and I got to go towards the bit. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, there's a bit there. Let me tackle that real quick, and then we'll get back to
That's good for
reality.
7 minutes, definitely.
Yeah. I listened to the second Steve episode. It was
He
a
told people
bit
not to buy his album.
it's very bit heavy, and it's like 7 minutes. Yeah, it's a good one, right? No, yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. It was fantastic. Yeah, one of the best Vineyard podcast episodes. Is there always some sort of pressure when going into to work on music or revolving around music, even not in a recording sense, perhaps?
I think there's I think for my own for Okonski for the project under my name, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I have a lot of anxiety to make it obviously as good as possible. I feel that less so. I feel more confident when going in as like a sideman to something to where I can contribute, but essentially you know, uh, it's not under my name. But with like with these trio recordings, with the Okonski recordings, it's tough to prepare for them because the nature of it is supposed to be improvisatory and supposed to be spontaneous, and so there's not a lot I can do beforehand to try to prepare, like have songs ready for it. So it's very, I'm very anxious, very uncomfortable, and I've found over and over and over again that the things that I want to do the least, the things that make me most uncomfortable, are the things that end up having like the biggest return on my life, are the things that are the most satisfying later on. And so I've not to say like I don't want to go in and record more trio stuff. It's just like the emotional uh the emotions behind that are like tough to handle, and it's just like it's tough to get to a place where I'm okay with things and to just let things be how they're gonna be. Uh, but that's what the music has to be. Like there needs to be that anxiety in it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's so interesting that you're operating within this window of stuff that you're just like, this is not me, and it's uncomfortable, but I
Yeah.
mean, it seems like it always produces great results, like you were just saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, again, and it's part of, playing with Aaron and Mike and with Terry and like being in a place to where we we can just hit record and roll the dice and see what happens and know that, we're not going to overdub this and we're not going to like to know that this is it. There's some magic there in that spontaneity.
Definitely. Yeah, and I mean, it really speaks to your guys's intuitions and capabilities of musicians to be able to do that. I mean, there's only
Thanks,
a
man.
certain amount of people who can pull that off correctly.
Hmm.
But you guys are master musicians, and that's what it says on the new hype sticker. Master
Master
musicians,
musicians,
um, good, just good guys, good
all around
music,
good guys.
solid musicians, solid hangs.
That all of these are good hype stickers. I
Yeah,
would look back, listen back later, and be like, "This is album 3, album 4, album 5."
I'm trying to start a consultant firm on hype stickers. And it
Great.
seems like I've been talking about them a lot more lately. And I would love to schedule. meeting with you, Steve, in
What's
order
the
to.
hype sticker on the Vineyard podcast?
Ooh, it would be like a direct quote from somebody going, "Oh, I've heard of that guest, but I'm not familiar with the podcast." That's the hype sticker. That's what that's going to indicate.
That's that's not good. That's not good. You need to get a different consultant for
I
that
know
one.
my
It's
audience.
Oh man, that's great.
Well, I've made tapes. I've made cassette tapes of the very first episode. And I should have put a hype sticker on that.
I honestly love listening to tapes. Like, I don't know, just trying to plug my phone in and then find like a playlist that I want to listen to is so much more of a pain than just opening up the tape drawer in the car and just picking out a tape and listening to that. It is so much more satisfying. That's all I got.
I thought there was going to be more. I did not want to
Yeah,
cut you
no.
off. I was
I
like,
was thinking, I was making sure there was nothing else, but yeah, tapes rock.
I do appreciate you double checking on that though. Now, usually when you're putting on a something on your phone, or you're looking for a playlist to just put on and hear.
Yeah, I think it depends on like if someone has sent me an album or a song, I'll try to listen to that. Uh, but it's usually someone having sent something to me rather than me finding something on my own. Or a lot of the times it'll be playlists that'll be artists that artists make on their own. Um, so like different, Kelly's got his own playlist, the Indications have their own playlist. And using that just kind of like as a way to listen to like hear a new song and be like, all right, let me put on the album. Let's see what this is like. Um, but that's mostly at home. I don't even really do that in the car.
No, that's home activities. By the way, were you referring to Kelly Finnegan?
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry,
Yeah.
Kelly Finnegan.
And shout out to Kelly Finnegan. Please
Who
go
I
listen
know,
to
a
his
friend of the
two
pod.
friend of the podcast. Yeah. Uh, love Kelly. A Lover Is Born is out now via Coal Mine. Yeah, did working on this new album feel differently than working on, or have a different feel than working on the first one?
Uh, I have to I mean, we recorded this in 2023, I believe. So this was recorded between the release of Magnolia and that show that you saw in June. So that was June of 2023 that we recorded it. So it's quite a ways back. Um, it was different in that the first record was recorded upstairs in Loveland, above Pladrium Records at the Coal Mine HQ. Uh, and that studio was moved to a different home in Loveland. And so it was still, Terry's studio and Terry's setup, but just in a different place. And so it felt a little bit different in that the setting was changed, but all the equipment was still the same. But I think coming into it, we all had a little clearer idea of like, let's just create. Let's just like create a bunch of stuff right now. And every session has basically been like day one is, we do a lot of listening to different uh inspiration, playlists. So a lot of listening, and then day one is just like a deluge of ideas. Day two is like a little bit slower. Day three, this is how everyone has gone, by the way. I'm not just like making this up. Day three, I have a panic attack in the morning, and then we call out. We try to do one song, it doesn't work. I cancel the whole day and just sit at the piano all day to come up with different ideas. Day four, another deluge of ideas, and day five, we're just kind of goofing around. This is what's happened every time, and so recording entrance music was pretty much that same formula, and I guess maybe with a little bit more confidence in knowing what kind of vibe we were going for.
And I mean, if anybody wants to make a great album, that's kind of there. Those are the steps there.
Yeah, I mean, it's working so far. Absolutely.
Pretty straightforward there. Yeah. No, that is amazing that there is this sort of process, or what is might happen. There's a
Yeah,
good chance of what's going to happen.
yeah, definitely. I mean, uh, it's yeah, it's just been the way it's gone, but I wouldn't change it.
I would, but that's, and I can't wait to work on the third album.
That's
You
your
know,
prerogative.
I,
Already
I,
done.
okay, I can't wait to come in for the fourth album. It's gonna
That I'll
change.
let you know. Absolutely.
Okay, within this tried and true process that you're working with, to finish the second album, um, were you trying to implement any new techniques within this rhythm that you knew was coming?
It's a good question. I
Thank
think
Steve. I appreciate it. It's the only one that's gonna happen. So let's relish this now.
I think we were still kind of chasing that same technique, the same process from the first album. I think it is so unique, at least to the experiences that I've had recording and that we three have had together, that, there's very few times when we get to just do that knowing that this will be, that we're trying to make a final product first cut here. And so I think that uh, process is still new enough and still exciting enough to where um, we were like, let's do it again. Let's see what happens, and let's see how much we can come up with, and how much material we get, and what we want to use, and see if this same process doesn't lead us into a different direction. Um, a la, Magnolia.
Yeah,
Very
but
similar process.
yeah. Are you careful to about what you bring to the table with not only Okonski but also like the indications, for example? Are you kind of like I don't want to ruffle feathers or something like that?
No, not at all. No, I feel like all of the writing for both groups, for everything, is all very of the moment and very organic. Even with the indications when we get into writing sessions, um, I don't really feel worried about what, like, ruffle feathers. I don't even know how I would do that.
All right, so you get a goose, preferably, right?
Sure.
I was using it as I was like, yeah, I let me use something that we really don't use in everyday conversations for
Like
this
a
podcast
goose?
that's being recorded, like a goose. When does a feeling around an album start to form? When do you kind of get the like, oh, this is kind of what it's shaping out to be? Just the feeling around it, like what you're sharing with whoever it is that you're working with. Like, let's take Okonski, for instance.
Hmm.
Was there a feeling with Magnolia, like in like a just like, oh, there's something in the air about this, like what we're doing here, what these songs are sounding like, and with the second album as well?
Yeah, I think it's not in the recording session. Like, it definitely doesn't happen then. It's well after the fact, starting to, do a little bit of editing and starting to come up with a track list. And it's like, oh, this is 30 minutes of music here, and it all is kind of connected and it feels good. Um, like, that is probably like the beginning of it for me, where it's like, oh, this is an album. Like, it's starting to have a character to it. And then for me, when it feels like, maybe this is obvious, but for me, when it's like done, done isn't so much like when it's released, but it's uh, when I can, like, when we've made the album cover and we can see like the design and we've got like a track list with names of the tracks, and it's like, wow, that is finished.
The visual component is also, it's like that's kind of what seals the deal for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a big part of it for sure. So for entrance music for this new album, I writing song titles for instrumental tracks always bums me out, but I just grit my teeth and do it, and there's some semblance of an idea to each of them. But for the album artwork, my friend Blake Ryan, guitarist of the Indications,
Oh
he
yeah,
did
yeah,
a paint.
yeah,
He
yeah.
did a painting. Yeah, he did. He did that album art for the cover though, and it's really fantastic. I'm really proud of how it came out.
Yeah, really awesome. Now have you seen it on vinyl yet?
No, I haven't seen the hard copy yet. That'll be another time when it really kind of clicks in. But no, they are en route, but I have not received one yet.
Ooh, do
Hopefully they
you
get here.
and you're just checking the phone and you go, "What? It's delayed." You know, it's in
Lost?
Lo-
What do you mean?
why is it in
3,000 records are
Alaska?
lost.
It just sends you a whoops. Listen, our bad. Full disclosure, we screwed up, you know? That's
When you got
not
to appreciate the honesty, you can't get mad at the honesty.
There is something to be said about that.
You
For
can be
real, there is.
disappointed.
You can be disappointed as you should be and angered, but also, I mean, in hindsight, you're going to be like, you kind of got to give it to them. They're kind of straight up about it.
They owned up to it. Respect.
And of course, that's in hindsight. Uh, you know,
Right. It's 2020. Well,
I'm
10-10 now.
oh, okay. I would not make such a crass joke, and we're gonna have to censor that.
Oh,
No,
it's all good.
I was gonna go in a different direction with the calendar year. I was like, oh, it's 2025, but you went, let me go the other way.
Sure. We can only laugh at it.
Steve, if you wouldn't mind me asking, what did happen?
Oh,
If you wouldn't mind talking about it.
yeah,
If you
not
do
at
mind, I
all.
understand.
Not even a little bit. For some reason, so I've got to wear this eye patch now. For I don't know how long, but my right eye, uh, the bottom muscle got really inflamed to where my right eye is stuck looking down. And so I've got bad double vision unless I wear the patch. And so talking with, a bunch of doctors and still have a couple things left to do to try to fix it. But for now, we just got to rock the patch. And it could be, I mean, it's TBD for how long that'll be. But I'm feeling in pretty good. I mean, I'm not like happy about it, but I have come to terms with what's going on and in pretty good spirits about it.
Can I tell you that I do like the look?
I appreciate that.
I
Thank you.
I really do. And also, it's something about your hair today, Steve, as well. It's fucking amazing, man.
It's
I
gonna the thing that I had to grieve the most is I'm not gonna be able to do crime as easily
No,
because
no.
it's so much more notice. Like I could blend in pretty well previously. I could do crime no problem, but now if you got the eye patch, you can't blend in.
Well, there's two things about that. A, the hair wasn't helping because people are like, "Whoa, look at that hair." A, that's
I
kind of
guess if I could do crime if I was a C, that would be no problem. Expected.
you're not getting that on any other podcast. That's a one and done joke there. You're not finding that
So,
anywhere else.
so that's what's going on with the eye.
And I'm glad that you're being proactive about fixing it or doing what you can with it. I love it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we'll see
And
what happens.
also, real quick before we get off the subject, I also really like that shirt. I don't know who makes it, but it's a good looking shirt too.
Man, you're really flattering me. I don't know
It's
what to
very
say.
clean. It's a clean shirt. This shirt very dirty, and that's fine. Me and you, we're yin and yang. So
Sure. I mean,
shirt
I
is what he meant to say, I
shirt.
think.
I
Sorry, I had to do it.
my
No,
son
it's
loves your joke. Great,
okay.
great
Okay.
screaming.
Does the energy of a song when you're recording it, is that felt later on when you're listening back to it after the whole thing's done, when hard copies are out, when the track listing's done, when the photos are done? Are you able to go back and be like, oh yeah, I remember recording that. I remember how it felt in the studio, and I feel the same way now hearing it back.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I mean, I feel like it's akin to, you take a picture and you look back at it a year later. Like you might not remember every single thing that happened, but it definitely evokes a memory and a feeling. I mean, I remember recording everything pretty much from the second album, but I think back to Magnolia and I remember a lot of it, but I don't remember recording every single track. There's certain things that poke out. I remember Sunday really well. I remember Song for My Sister's Son really well. runner up and Dark Moon. Um, so I think, it just depends, and with time it'll probably, things will fade as all memories do, but I think it's uh yeah, I think that energy and that feeling still comes through later on.
Yeah. That's a textbook good answer, Steve. I'm gonna
You
clip
want me to you want me
this.
to do it again but better?
Nope, nope. Do songs from other bands, when you hear them, bring you back to the first time you heard them? And you go, "Oh, I remember the first time I heard that," or "I remember, like, the kinda the time frame of when I first heard that."
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, it's I remember like who would give me an album, like, and when I first, like, I remember my friend's brother giving me These Are the Vistas by Bad Plus when I was in high school. Did not get it at all. Did not I kept listening to it, but I didn't necessarily like love it. And the more I listened, the more I learned to love it. Not learn to, but the more I just naturally enjoyed it. And so yeah, I've got like very clear memories for some of these. For some music, less so for others, but like, yeah, it's like a food or a aroma. It's stuff that kind of takes you back to a moment. And I definitely have that with some albums. Not even necessarily my favorite albums, just like random ones that somehow stuck in your mind for some reason. All right, we're back.
We're back.
But yeah, I think, I've definitely got places and people associated with different albums, and listening to it takes me back for sure.
Are you the kind of person that will listen to a song over and over and over again when you first come across it? You're like, "I love this song. Let
Yep,
me."
I'll play it to death. I'll listen to the same song like 9 times in a row. I I love doing that. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but to find a song that does that feels so good. I'm trying to remember the last song that I did that with, but I'll have to look back. I can't recall right now. It
There
doesn't
was
happen
a
that often, but
Yeah, there was at least one at some point, though. That's what we're trying to get
definitely.
across here. Okay. Do you want people to that hear your music to be brought back to the first time that they heard it?
I mean, I think if that happens with someone, it means that they've formed some sort of like a deeper connection than just like a service level listening. So yeah, I mean, if people get a deeper connection than that, and it like listening a year later or sometime takes them back to when they first heard it, that's awesome. That I would love for that to happen. Again, it's not like I expect every person who listens to any of these songs to like make some sort of visceral emotion with it, but for those that do, I'm very grateful for.
Can I just say, you with your child right now, this looks like a press photo. This is in a documentary. This is this
He's
is it's an
I
amazing
I can't
image.
even I didn't even yeah, he loves the screen.
Hey, don't we all, Steve?
I'm
And eh, maybe that's all of us to a certain extent, you know?
sure.
Just just
Absolutely.
just just getting off on it. Let me do 15 minutes on what I think is going on right now. I read that you said about this new album, Entrance Music, that it feels a little less on the streets at 2 a.m. and a little more nature based and a little more ethereal.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed that description of it. I think that really puts a marking on what to expect with this album.
I think just like that quote uh is just reflecting that like a lot of Magnolia, even though it was recorded after I moved to Asheville, a lot of those emotions were still a lot of like those feelings from when we were recording were coming from like late nights. Like it felt very late night, and this new album feels very early morning. So even if it's like the same kind of time, there's like a different outlook on it. And so, I've been in Asheville since 2019 now. And my life has changed some, and so what I'm pulling from
Oh,
is going to be a little bit different.
your life has changed. How so? How has that changed since
Well,
2019?
that's only
If
this
we could
that's
expand on that for a minute.
you hear my son crying. That only happened 6 months ago. So everything with LP2 is pre-child, but the emotions are, we were gearing up for it. So yeah, so things are a lot different, and yeah, again, like same kind of time time, 2 to 6 a.m., but instead of being late night, now it feels more early morning um, for this album, and I don't know, I like it.
That's a really great way of describing it.
This is all off the cuff. I give my best ideas with you, man.
I'm glad that your son could join us. I think it's good. I think it brings good energy. It certainly
Thanks.
brings good
Thanks, man.
energy out of me. I wouldn't have all these hot Steve Allen riffs, you know.
He appreciates it.
I know. If anybody would, do you think you would have leaned more into a city vibe with this second album if the first album was more uh coming from a more natural perspective or nature perspective per se? Do you think that you would have switched the roles if the perspectives were switched?
I mean, if I had moved from like a 100,000 person town to like a big city, then probably. But this wasn't a deliberate thing, as much as just kind of a reflection of our lives and the environment. Um, and so, I did move from Brooklyn to Asheville, and so what I'm dealing with day to day is going to be so much different, and I think that's going to be a different energy that I bring to the sessions, and I'm glad for that.
Brooklyn, Nashville, same, right? Pretty similar.
I mean, there's definitely some crossover, but the Venn diagram is probably pretty slim there in the middle.
The way I drew it was like completely different, but that's fine. We'll compare notes.
Two overlapping circles.
Yeah. Okay, all right. We're kind of in the same range there. We took a little break there,
And we're back.
and we're back. I chatted with my mechanic for 1.5 hours.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that episode.
Yeah, that'll be posted in the Patreon. No, every time I go there, it's like I'm not only am I talking about the car, but he's talking about his stuff, and then we just get wrapped up in this kind of like the your post office, your postman
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
it's like my
That's only
mechanic.
that's only because I like hearing his voice, though. It sounds like your guy actually has some serious stuff he needs to talk about.
He talks about it. He's from New Zealand, so
Oh, that's nice. Indications are going to New Zealand for the first time this year. New Zealand, Australia, and Hawaii. We got a little tour in March.
have you been to Australia or New Zealand?
No, never. This will be the first ever time.
Are you ready for the plane ride?
I think so. Well, it'll be from Hawaii. So we've got a gig and rehearsals in Hawaii, and then we'll be going from there to uh I think it's Australia first. I don't really know, but I mean, how bad can it be?
I heard that that is the way to do it is to fly to Hawaii, then fly to Australia. It cuts down significantly on flight time. So I think you're doing it correctly.
Well, that's good to hear because I don't have a choice.
Well, whoever arranged that, you let them know that, hey, you're doing a bang up job.
I'll pass it along. That'll mean a lot to him.
Yeah. With with the indications music, did you take time in between recording Magnolia and this new album and work on some indication stuff?
Let me try to think about what exactly the timeline was. If Magnolia was 23, that was released February 2023. And that was a year that I believe the indications were taking off from touring. So that was uh, a well needed rest for everybody. Durand put out his solo record. Aaron was working on his record, I believe. And I put out Magnolia. And then that's when we also recorded this record was that summer. So that was that whole year was a mandated break. And then in 2024, the indications were we were writing starting from January. We were writing and recording a new album, which will be released later this year. And so we were doing a lot of that in Chicago at Blake Spot. a lot of the writing sessions and that. And then we did a good amount of recording in Asheville here because the recording dates were so close to when my son's due date was. And so I was like, I'd love to record, but I can't like go out to LA for like 3 weeks with like around the due date time. So we did it here and I got through, I think 12 of 14 days of recording. So thankfully I got most of my stuff done and then Ellis came. But yeah, so long story short, during the recording of this album, that was a break that the Indications were taking. You know, everyone was working on their own stuff. And, then yeah, we didn't start touring again, but we were writing and recording again in 24.
And of course, I just want to mention this. Your son, friend of the podcast, great guest,
He
great
can't wait
cameo.
to he can't wait to be back on. Absolutely. Not
And
now, obviously,
no,
but
he's busy. He's got a busy schedule. Not us. But you know,
it's fun.
it's okay. Got a little bit too big for this podcast. If we're being honest here.
There's no shame in that.
No, it's fine. It was inevitable. You know.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, back to speak with my mechanic. Uh, we're not getting into that stuff here. I say I'm gonna leave it at the shop. I'll leave that shop talk at the shop. You know?
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, leave the people wanting more.
Yeah. Yeah. And if people are so inclined, you can ask me about what myself and my mechanic discussed for an hour and a half. I mean, that was a bulk of the time, but it's fine.
Yeah, I imagine the phone lines are lighting up as we speak. People pretty eager. Ask your producer out there.
it's actually my mechanic. I actually did have a guy to fill the spot, trying to convince him to come on.
Nice.
Do you feel that time in between recording both of your albums was needed to kind of switch gears in the sense of moving from what you were working on with the first one to working on or what you were working on with the second one?
The time in between recording Magnolia and this upcoming entrance music.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I think um I think there's something to be said for kind of just like ripping through recording sessions, getting as much material as possible. But for what we were doing, I think it there's some like magic that happens when I mean even as much as Aaron and Mike and I play together, we don't really get a chance to fully record and improvise and write spontaneously. That happens very seldomly. And so to take some time and go and play more gigs with the Indications and play more gigs with Aaron's solo project and have some just more time to gel and get more experiences and then you come back and uh, again, it's the same members and it's the same kind of music, but you know, it's 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 new though, and I think some time for us all to grow a little bit. We're gonna inevitably bring different things to the session.
Yeah. Do you feel like you are yourself, Michael and Aaron, became way more in tune with one another and kind of brought that tightness into the indications?
I so Mike actually recorded on this new album too. Think I think a lot of that. I think some of that was definitely stepping away for a little bit and all focusing on our own solo projects, but all still working together on those solo projects too. So it was just, you know, it was the same ingredients, but uh, a different
Recipe.
entree. Yeah, exactly.
I like entree better, honestly. If it came to mind, I would have said it. I'm sorry. Uh,
uh, and that's and I so anyway, yeah, I think anytime you get a chance to create in different ways in different situations, you're gonna learn new things and become closer and Uh, yeah, I feel lucky to call them pals. So
for that entree, those are the guys you want in the kitchen,
most certainly, absolutely.
of course. Do you feel like everyone who is working within the indications is relatively has the same sort of things to pull from and influences and things that they're interjecting within, whether it be Aaron's music or your own music or Durand's solo project?
I mean, I think there's certainly crossover of shared influence with all of us. I think I mean, I know that we share music all the time and we all have some very common tenets that we all enjoy. But I think individually we do pull from different stratospheres to kind of meet in that Venn diagram in the middle. Not to keep on bringing up Venn
No, I
diagrams.
love it. It's a nice callback.
It's a
It's a nice call.
very it's if there's a large portion in the middle that is the same, but those outliers are also like very interesting. And it's not that I like Durand knows so much about classical music and gospel music. And I know a little bit, but certainly not as much as him. And so when he can pull stuff out and show things, then I get excited. I love hearing that. It's not anything I'd been exposed to previously, woodwind quartets and things like that. And same thing goes with Blake and his just archival knowledge of archival soul. And everyone's got a little bit of something that they bring. But there is definitely a large middle ground. And I think, for Mike and I, that comes from like jazz. Like we both love that so much. And so do the other guys, but I think Mike and I could probably have uh really we've got more that we've listened to because we've both like studied it specifically.
You guys went to school for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, more or less.
More. I want to have both of you guys on this podcast, and I just want to hear you guys talk about jazz and whatnot.
He was threatening to call in so that way I wouldn't just be getting a bunch of softball questions. I don't know what he was going to ask.
He called me. He called me when I was at the mechanics. And I said, "There's no way I'm
It's
gonna."
like, no, the interview's not happening right now, man. Stop yelling.
He's fantastic. He's a great musician.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. Who have you interviewed the most?
The most,
Yeah.
as it stands right now, it's Tim Hellman, and he plays in the OCs.
Oh yeah, have you interviewed everyone in that band?
Everyone except John Dwyer. Uh,
I think there was I think I met those guys when we were doing the the festival down in Mexico. I forget who that was for. Wilco? But I remember being in a van with those guys and I had not heard of them. But super nice dudes. And really cool to I don't know, talk for that. Share small talk for that short bus ride from the airport to the Hard Rock Resort.
that would have been a neat car ride.
Yeah, no doubt.
That would have
Absolutely.
been. I would have loved it. I wouldn't have interjected at all. I wouldn't have bridged a gap in between you guys. It's just been like, let's just see how this plays out.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
natural.
yeah. I mean, hey, come on now. Is
How
it
many have you interviewed? Have you interviewed him?
this the fifth? I mean, yeah, 5 times. So
Wow.
the fifth time just came out. He's always the first guest of each year.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, I mean, not every year, but since I've been doing it, I mean, because I've been
Oh, okay.
not
So
every
not
year.
that. Sure.
Hey, so remember what I just said? Not that. Just
Sure.
scratch that. When I started doing it, it wasn't like a weekly thing. It was like very sparsely. So in that interim time or in the beginning time, it wasn't so often I was doing them. But since I started doing them, I was like, oh well, it just sort of happened to be 2 years in a row
Hmm.
that he had been the first guest, and then that's so. I mean, a lot of weights on his shoulders. In order, it's like you are setting the tone of the year, and I've told him that, and he likes it.
Yeah, it sounds nerve-wracking.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, you know me, I grab a lot of pressure and I try
Sure.
to push it onto people. I mean, our constant talks of, hey, you better bring it. People are expecting this. The tens of listeners of this podcast, Steve, you know what they expect.
Yeah, no, it's constantly playing in my mind. But I appreciate you bringing it up again. Thank you.
And on Spotify, right? It's also playing on Spotify. And I also heard that it's playing on Apple Music as well, or Apple Podcast and YouTube as
Apple
well.
Podcast, is that a thing?
That's it. You made that sound like you've never heard of this. Is this true?
Apple Podcast, is that like
Apple
an app?
Apple Podcasts, yeah.
No, I don't have that.
All right. Well, I mean, hey, feel free to download it. And the first thing you got to listen to is the Vineyard podcast.
Yeah, it's not like I don't know what you're doing. I just use different apps.
I'm surprised you guys weren't talking about this in the van, with all you guys
Well, I
being
think
on their podcast.
this was pre you, I think.
I've been around for a minute. All right. Not
For
to toot
every
my
year,
own,
really.
been around every year.
Well, not every year,
Uh,
but
most of
pretty
the years.
much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Is
Oh man.
there a genre or maybe a band that you listen to frequently that people maybe would not expect you to listen to, such as the OCs, for instance?
That people wouldn't expect me to listen to.
That's maybe not
Um,
related to jazz or soul or gospel or any of the stuff that you play.
yeah, definitely. I mean, first concert I ever saw was the Beastie Boys, and that was 2004 at Cobo Hall in Detroit. Uh, I'm a huge Beastie Boys fan.
Oh
Not
yeah,
not really not I feel no shame for that.
no,
Uh,
you shouldn't.
so
I don't either. Yeah, they're amazing. How was it? How was that performance?
it was awesome. It was incredible. It was it wasn't that show, but it was the tour that they did that I fucking shot that where they gave out cameras to everybody in the crowd and then put out the DVD
Yeah,
of all the fan footage. It was remarkable. It was really really cool. It was to open up for them. It was Talib Kweli, and before him was a dog show of dogs doing tricks. It was I've never seen a show like it. So I what else? I don't know. I We were talking a little bit about like albums that like take you back to a certain place. And like for me in high school, I loved Weezer's Blue album and Pinkerton for so long. So I would play that constantly. The Mars Volta, the first two, Francis the Mute, and then the first album. Those first two albums I really loved, still do. Um, I don't know. Those are the two that are off the top of my head right now, but
those are good too. Those
those
are
are
good too. Yeah.
a bit outside of the realm I think that one would expect listening to the music that I make.
Not me, but other people that don't know you as well. Yes, they would.
Yeah,
They would be.
you've got a very active imagination, and that comes through.
We got two underneath the belt here. I mean, I know you pretty well now, Steve. Um,
Absolutely.
Going back to favorite albums though, do you have a favorite Beastie Boys album, or is there one that really sticks out to you? Maybe not the favorite, but just one that was really like, well, this is a good one.
It's Paul's Boutique. That's the one.
The most expensive album ever made, ever. Yeah.
Well, if they would have paid for it. No, I love that album. I love the Dust Brothers production on it. All the samples. I mean, it's just like it's a work of art. It's incredible. That would be my ride or die album for sure.
That's a good choice.
Yeah.
And what about the later stuff? Maybe Ill Communication, was that also a big one
Ill
for you?
Communication was probably second for me, and that's what also introduced me to a Tribe Called Quest because Q-Tip was a feature on one of those tracks, and I was like, who I had no idea who it was, and then I found out it was Q-Tip, and then found a Tribe Called Quest, and then that took me down a huge wormhole of that, and that was kind of my intro to like early to mid '90s hip hop too, and then that got me into De La Soul and Diggable Planets, and I love that stuff, and I think that is something going back to what we were talking about that Aaron and I think really connect on because he's a huge hip hop head, especially that like early '90s, mid '90s stuff.
Hmm.
Ill Communication Ill Communication always felt like a winter album to me, and Paul's Boutique always
Mm,
felt like a summer album.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
But I
I
mean,
could
I
definitely
like
see
Hello
where you're coming from.
Nasty. I
Yeah.
I
That's
like
a good
To the
one.
Five Boroughs. I have never listened to Check Your Head. I've got no reason why I haven't. I just never have. And at this
I
point, I don't think I can.
I am in the same boat with you, Steve.
Really?
I've never checked it out, and I
That's a
mean, I
lot of people's favorite album.
why do you think that, or why do you think that we weren't jumping at it
Probably because
like
you didn't.
everybody else?
Honestly, I didn't really love Sabotage that much.
Yeah, I could see that. I can look at I look at Sabotage kind of the same as um the the first album. It might just be self-titled. I kind of look at that as like I don't really
Not
look at that
Licensed to
album.
Ill, but the one
License
that are
Sale. No. License, not
okay.
the Cookie Puss one. That one, I
Right,
like that
right,
too.
right.
That was good. Um, yeah, I don't really. I don't, there's something about that album I just don't really listen to that much,
Yeah.
ever really, if I'm being honest with you. But
Licensed to Ill I listened to when I was a kid because I remember my dad had the tape for it and somehow I got my hands on that. I got my hands on that and it was that and Bitches Brew and then
ooh,
I think another
on tape.
Miles. Yeah, yeah. And then I think Miles at the Black Hawk, some live set. But it was a weird set of tapes that we had because both my parents worked at record stores when they met and had me, and so our basement was full of just records and tapes and that.
That those are some really interesting polls for
Yeah, for
for
sure.
tapes. Yeah, and I
Are
do the
those
thing
all
that
cassette tapes behind your back? Are those
all cassette tapes. Yeah,
nice,
all of them.
man?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Good collection.
Yeah, I got some good ones in there.
I love going tape hunting at like thrift stores or antique shops and that. I feel like it's a I don't know, I get more joy out of that I think than digging for records sometimes.
Oh.
Um because it's almost always cheaper and I don't know, there's just something I like more about it.
Have you taken gambles on tapes and records, and you're like, I don't know anything about this, and I'll just see what's on here.
Yeah, definitely. I've like even just like blank or just like handwritten tapes from they're like $1 a piece. I'll buy 5 of those and just put them in the car and listen. And a lot of the times it's like radio broadcasts, but it's like, or it's like just good. I mean, it's mixtapes. It's no different than putting it on the radio and you know, some is good and some are not. Um, but yeah, I love taking those. I feel like it's you're more likely to find a tape you're more likely to have a better bet on a cheap tape than you are a cheap record.
Mm, yeah,
Someone could prove me wrong with that. I don't really stand by that. 100, I feel like I'm 75% convicted to that.
that's pretty high, but also
Yeah,
it's a
I
working
got,
theory.
I am a man of change.
Prove me wrong, and I will
Yeah,
I'll say that I am. Yeah.
exactly.
Would you ever want to have your releases out on tape?
Yeah, I guess like I would do that if I was gonna do like a tour or something, just to have like some different kind of merch. But I don't know how much I would want to like put up just to have it, you know, for the sake of having it.
Could you make two of them so I can have one? I mean, I'm really just asking you, can you make me a tape for both of these releases, please, Steve?
I could see what I can do about it. I'll get back to you on it. Uh, but it looks pretty good right now. Sure.
Okay. All right. I'm feeling a lot better about this now. Did you ever have a tape or a record and you're like, this is a really great record or tape, and it just vanished? It's just you don't know where it went.
I keep a pretty good list of things. Like one, I don't lend out things that I really cherish too much. And if I do, like I've got a couple records now that I like, unless they're like really uh available. Like I'll lend someone my copy of Donny Hathaway Live because I can always like that's one specific copy doesn't have that much sentimental value to me. I just love that record. Um Same with like Aretha Live at the Fillmore. Like and I'm only bringing those up because I have lent those to people. But no, I can't say, thankfully, that I've lost anything that was too near or dear to me. Um, there's this one mixtape that I have that I can just hear it starting to degrade. Um, it was I forget it was DJ Monty Loca and DJ Lil Smiley. I forget what they go by, but they would DJ together. And last time I saw them, they were big supporters of the Indications, and they gave me a mixtape last time I was out there, and it's full of this awesome old soul that I hadn't heard before, West Coast stuff. And every time I play it, I can hear it just getting worse and worse. And so I don't know. I'm just going to play it until it dies. I don't know. I'm not gonna like hold on to it,
That's
having too much.
that's how you're supposed to take it out. It's like,
Yeah,
and it ends here. Has your approach uh, to recording music changed since you first began this kind of process of doing it?
I feel much. I feel. I feel like the way that we did Magnolia, where there is a certain amount of spontaneity, uh, though with different projects you wouldn't want to record it exactly like that. I think there's something to be said for recording everyone at the same time live in the room. I recorded it, excuse me, an album at the beginning of last year with Scott McMicken, who lives in town from Dr. Dog for his solo project.
Oh, right on.
And we did that in at his place, a tiny shed, and we did everything. We had played it, we had worked on these songs that do have a lot of improvisation in them. And we played a couple shows, and then we went to the shed and we just recorded the set. And it was all live. And I think he added some overdubs later, but the core of it was all live and in the room. Uh, and with that same kind of feeling, like we're not gonna like stop and change any of this. Like we're just gonna barrel through. And I think that kind of anxiety that you get from doing that, knowing that what you're putting down is what's gonna be there, does really add to the uh, performance and adds to the final product. And so I think I would always want to have some level of that if possible, um, as opposed to, going instrument by instrument and not that I've done that a lot in the past, but I just feel even more, not dedicated, but I feel that even more
Passionate.
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Did recording Magnolia have maybe the greatest effect on how you approach music? Or was it maybe just one of the many times that you have learned how to go about recording stuff?
I think it's just another uh, brick in the wall of education. It's
Beastie Boys reference. I heard it. I know. I know.
it's
It's good.
another. Yeah, I don't think like I mean that session did fundamentally change a lot for me, working with the 388 right to tape, doing all of that live and in the room and spontaneously. Yeah, there's it definitely changed everything fundamentally. Um but it doesn't like it doesn't it doesn't worry me like when the indications are recording. We record basics and then add stuff on top, and we do more overdubs, and if we need to stop and redo something we can do it. That doesn't like bum me out or anything, it's just a different way to do it. But I'm recording Magnolia did show me how productive and the kind of work you can get from that, and makes me excited to do it more, as we did with LP2 entrance music here.
That was leading to my next question. Yeah, did you kind of approach entrance music the same way?
Yeah, most certainly. It was like I said, it was just there was a different setting at Terry's new studio, but it was still working with, Terry producing and engineering and the same cast, and yeah, going in with the same mindset to where we try to just play and see what happens. And um I think all of this is in all of Magnolian entrance music is still informed by kind of these shared influences to where we aren't just going and playing like free jazz, we're still intuitively making these songs, um, without words, but they're brief and I think they, emote something rather quickly, uh, as opposed to, having to be, 12 or 13 minute, free jazz sides.
Do you enjoy longer format free jazz as well as kind of more concise songs?
I enjoy more concise things. I mean it depends on what it is, obviously, but as a player, I think Sunday was the longest track on Magnolia. I don't think there's a longer track on entrance music. Um, I think there's something to be said for, whatever you end up having the theme be, doing some sort of variation on it, and then coming back to the theme and having it be kind of songs. I enjoy there being somewhat of a structure for sure.
Verse, chorus, verse,
Bridge,
lyrically. Yeah.
right?
Outro, back into the intro. Of
Redux, absolutely.
course.
Yeah, a reprise.
Ooh, that's a good one. Nice word. Nice word. Nice word.
Thanks.
Where did the name entrance music come from?
Nowhere in particular. I spent a lot of time after the recording when we, had already, worked on all these tracks and mixed them, trying to come up with names and just trying to figure out what they emote to me or what kind of feelings I get from them. And a theme that kept on coming back was just kind of like change and renaissance and a new beginning. Um, and but all of that felt a little bit corny to me. And entrance music really just it feels like it's another chapter, and this music you walk into a room with and you start a new thing with, even though it's obviously very tied to Magnolia. It's a new album, and it's uh new ground in a way.
I like it. I like it, Steve.
Thanks.
What made October stand out to you to make you want to put it out as the first single?
I think that was the one that I was definitely. I think even in the recession, it was we finished the track, and it like I knew we had it like right there. Like there wasn't going to be anything we needed to do to touch anything up. It was just front to back, awesome. And I loved the performance of it. I love. Uh, it was just the most exciting to me. I mean, and it's. I think it also is probably the closest tie to Magnolia as well. Um, just being really open and free, and it's got a little bit of that like song for my sister's son uh vibe to it. um but I think when we finished playing it in the studio, we definitely knew like that was the one that was most exciting to me, and it still is listening back to it, even though I like them all. That one is the lead single for a reason, and just because it feels good.
I knew that there was a deeper meaning to that. I knew that there was a reason why that was released first, Steve.
It feels good.
It does feel good. It's it's
Thank
it's
you.
feeling good music. I think that we said that about, I don't know, 4 hours ago or so.
Right,
6 hours
exactly.
ago, perhaps. Uh, is there gonna be another single coming out before the whole album's released?
Yep, there'll be another single out, I think around the beginning of February. I forget exactly when. And then right before the album, that'll be this track called Dahlia. And then there will be kind of like a focus track, like the day or two before the album drops, called Summer Storm. And yeah, I think that comes out like the 26th or the 27th. But just a way to kind of keep momentum rolling into the full album release.
Now you said the second one was Dahlia or
Yeah,
Thalia? D-
Dahlia, like the
Dahlia.
flower.
I wasn't familiar with that flower, but I will be when that comes out.
Look it up. That's I don't really have anything to add to it. Oh,
I
you
thought
don't know
that
it? Hey,
I thought
hey pal, why don't you go look it up, huh? Go look it up. Go Google image search Dahlia.
I will put in post a picture of Dahlia. Um, would you ever want to make a really structured album with Okonski? Would that be appealing to you?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we initially set out to do, and that's what the trio sessions EP is. There's 4 songs, and those are very, electric instruments, overdubs, very thought out, composed parts. Kind of a bit of a more like instrumental hip hop feel. Um, and I would definitely do something like that again, but I think a lot of those ideas now kind of go towards other projects, or I don't lean as heavily into that. But that's not to say it won't come back to that at some point for sure.
Right on. What song are you most excited for people to hear from this new album as we sit here on January 17th?
Um, I mean, before October was released, I would say October because it feels it's just my favorite off the album. Um, I'm excited for folks to hear. Oh man, you're catching me off guard here. Track one of side B. It
Finally,
is.
finally caught you off guard, Steve. Ooh, well, I this is a win. No, please.
This is huge. Mike, track one of side B, Mike opens it up with a bass solo that's like probably a good like 45 seconds. And I remember being in the room, and they're like, all right, we're gonna do something in whatever key this is. Mike, why don't you start something off? And he just plays the most beautiful intro on bass. Uh that really set the tone for the rest of that song. So I guess I'm really excited for people to like flip the record and have that be what greets them on side B. Uh, it's really special.
Oh, right on, man. That sounds awesome. Yeah, how much of putting these albums together, both these albums together was like structuring songs.
For Magnolia, I think the only songs that had an idea coming in was Runner Up, like that I had the main kind of melody for. Um, but with all these, there wasn't a ton of discussion beforehand. But that I had a pretty decent idea of, and then um, I think Dark Moon I had a rough idea for. And then for this new album, October came out. Uh, I think on day 3 or 4 after or after thinking about that main first part. So that was somewhat structured. And then there's a track called Dahlia, the second track, which is definitely the most structured of any track on either album. That's almost like a more like straight ahead tune. Um, so I mean, there's always a little bit of playing beforehand. Well, not for everything, but there's some playing beforehand and thinking. Um, I think maybe probably a little bit more on entrance music than there was on Magnolia.
What tracks were going to go where on each album? How much is that being thought out while getting this album together?
I mean, there's a point where we need to come up with what the track list is going to be, but that's like well after being in the studio. That's after being in the studio. That's after mixing. It's probably around the same time that I have to come up with names for everything. So that is definitely a fun part of the creative process. Much more fun than naming songs, figuring out what the order is going to be. But that comes much later in the game.
And you enjoy it now, right? That's like your favorite part?
I don't know if it's my favorite part, but yeah, coming up with what that package is going to look like is very fun for sure.
Going back to other people's albums for a moment. Have you ever DJ'd?
No, no, never have.
Would you ever want to DJ?
Yeah, totally. I would, I would definitely be into that. It depends on like what the setting would be, obviously, and what the format's going to be. But I've got a pretty good collection of music that I feel like I could entertain people with for an hour or two.
Would you do like more hip hop stuff, or would you ever introduce some jazz into the mix?
Feel like, I mean, I could, so if I were doing like a radio show, I could see doing like an hour of, like mostly jazz with some different like soul stuff mixed in. Um, that would be a great time, I think. But I wouldn't like play jazz like out, I think that would be a weird vibe.
What would be a crazy jumping off point if you're just gonna DJ some jazz for an hour? What would be like the craziest pull that you could do? Like, whoa, this is a crazy jumping in point.
I'm The Shape of Jazz to Come, Ornette Coleman, I think would be a pretty bonkers start to the whole affair. Like I like that, but it took me a while to like that. And I think if people are just having a drink and that came on, they would not get a second one.
We
If
got to
they
close
didn't
it.
know.
I'm actually gonna close this one out. I'm
Please play that in like now to play us out.
I you know that YouTube's gonna strike me down for this. And how often does it happen that you have to keep on going back and um kind of unraveling a new song or a new genre or artist for you that you're like, okay, I'm starting to learn to like this. How often does that happen for you? Or is it kind of rare that that would occur?
Uh, no, I don't think it's rare. I think in the case of like Ornette Coleman and The Shape of Jazz to Come, man, what's the guitar player's name? There's an album I liked that man, it's on the tip of my tongue. It was more in like the free jazz style, and I really liked that. And a old professor of mine says, "Oh, well, he's just doing basically Ornette Coleman." And so it took me a while to like listen to that to appreciate that. And I think it comes with recommendations from people. Like if no one recommended it to me or said, "Hey, you should like you'll be able to get something from this," then I don't think I would do that naturally on my own. Uh,
Yeah.
um, I can't think of like the last time that happened, but that's not to say that it hasn't happened recently. I just can't remember right now. Sonny Sherrick. That's the guitar player's name. Sonny Sherrick. Sharrock.
Ooh,
Incredible.
that's a good name too.
Yeah,
Strong.
top notch. Yeah. Destined.
Destined for greatness, just like yourself, Steve. And thank you so much for coming back on here, man. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure
Man.
talking to you. It's good to listen to the music. It's good to see you live. I recommend it to anybody who has the opportunity to. Please go and go see Okonski or go see the Indications. Are you still performing with Aaron on occasion?
On occasion, I don't know what this next year is going to look like, but it could certainly happen. I took the last half of last year off on account of the child. He had a phenomenal band for that, and we'll see how this year goes. But however it goes, it'll be solid for sure.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. Um, yeah, before I let you go though, Steve, we got some real promotion to do here. So, Entrance Music is out February 28th via Coal Mine Records. The newest single, October, is streaming everywhere, wherever people get their music. That's where they can find it. The people can pre-order the new album through coalminerecords.com. And people can also purchase the first album, Magnolia, there as well. So if you don't have that already, please go pre-order the new album and order the first album. And again, that's through Coal Mine's website, and that'll be linked below. And people could follow you to stay up to date with the new singles and whatnot and what have you, all the good stuff,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And that's at Steve.Okonski on Instagram. Uh, and Durand Jones Indications music streaming everywhere as well, wherever you get your music. Um, yeah, it's also at Coal Mine, a little bit of Coal Mine, a little bit of Dead Oceans, I believe, is where the
Yep.
newer stuff is, right?
Yep, exactly right.
Private Space and whatnot.
Yeah, Private Space, I mean, is a Dead Oceans release, but Terry's always been involved on some level, whether it be, 45s or just, uh, he's always, he's been a part of it from the beginning. So,
Awesome. And yeah, and Aaron's music of course is also at Coal Mine, also at Dead Oceans.
yep.
Did you have a hand in Into the Blue, the new album as well?
No, no, that was him and his crew of LA musicians, I believe. Him and Alex Goose, the producer, really put together a phenomenal album. Uh, so it's fun to listen to.
And we're recommending it here.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Full throated.
Okay. That's what I wanted. That's the key to that. Yes, and Aaron's new album Into the Blue is on Coal Mine, on Dead Oceans. And what was one more time with the date of the in-store appearance, Steve?
February 20th at Harvest Records in Asheville, North Carolina.
Nice. Good record store, yeah?
Phenomenal. The guys who run it are great. The whole staff is wonderful. It's been around 20 some years now, so yeah, it's a stalwart for sure.
Right on. That's awesome. Yeah, so if you're in the area post Steve performing there, be sure to stop into that record store and buy something.
Most certainly.
All right, right on. Steve, man, I really appreciate you coming back on here. It really, really, really good to chat with you. And do we have anything else to promote?
That's all we got, man. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me back on and looking forward to do it again sometime.
Oh yeah, well tomorrow. But until then, Entrance Music out February 28th via Coal Mine. Steve, you're the man. I'm gonna stop recording this. I'll talk to you in a minute, okay?
Sounds good. Be
All
well.
right.